Right, so we're episode 10 of the Duke London podcast. We have Mr. Frankie J with us today at the Duke London studios in our top secret location. It's my house. So yeah, just before we get started, just wanted to say that, yeah, we're at episode 10 and we were just talking about this, but I've had a lot of really good feedback from everyone. A lot of people have come up to me and said, oh, I watched this podcast. Like when Harry did Just a Boo, a lot of people were writing me like, how did Harry do it? Just like people that don't know Harry. And we're like, how did Harry do it? I'm so invested in his journey now.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What?
Like just people that I know from like maybe like the choreo scene or something that were just interested. So yeah, I'm feeling really happy about that. And so I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that's been listening, because we're 10 episodes in now. Hopefully there'll be a lot more. But yeah, it's dope, and I appreciate all the feedback people have been giving me about what you want to see, who you want to hear, stuff like that. Only thing I would say is try to write it on the YouTube video, try to write it in the reviews rather than my inbox, because I can't read and respond to all of them individually sometimes because I'm doing stuff and I don't want to ignore people, but also just because the more engagement on the actual stuff, the better. And this is like, I'm not asking you to fake engagement. I'm saying like, if you actually have comments about it, please just write it on the YouTube video, write it on Spotify reviews, on wherever you will listen. But yeah, that's that. And yeah, so we have Frankie J with us today. I mean, I always struggle with these intros because I'm like, a lot of you guys I've known for such a long time that I'm like, how do I introduce? I'm just like, oh, that's my friend Frankie. But yeah, obviously, if you don't know Frankie, he's a great dancer. I mean, everyone that I've had on so far has been a great dancer, but you travel around the world teaching and competing and working, I guess. Main style you'd say is house.
Yeah.
But not that's by far the only thing you can do. You trained, I mean, I think I've seen you do almost every hip hop style. Like, is there anything that you say, oh, I can't, maybe like crump or something? Could you crump?
Yeah, maybe. I've tried it. I've tried it. Yeah. Okay. I've had to go through the works of it before.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've dabbled. Okay. I've definitely dabbled over the years for sure.
A bit of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you studied like classical dance as well.
Yeah. Right? That lies at the core of all my training before anything.
Yeah.
And then essentially from there, that's what gave me the curiosity to then dabble in other styles of dance and kind of find my route.
Because before you were at the place, right? You studied at the place.
I was at the place.
And before that, you were doing popping mainly, right?
Yeah. So I started off kind of like popping, and b-boying was my introduction into the kind of street dance culture. And I was also a student at Swindon Youth Dance. Okay. And that's inevitably where I kind of started to find my passion and my love for popping, especially. Yeah. And because of being on that course at Swindon Youth Dance, we were exposed to learning like styles across the board. So we were having guest teachers come through like every sort of module who were giving us like guest workshops and also weekly classes and mentoring sessions and stuff. So it was intense with the amount of information we were given during that time. So essentially that's what really helped me to always kind of be really open to trying different types of movement. And then I guess I found a particular thing inside of popping, and then kind of into the transition of me moving from Bristol to London. I was popping in London for a little bit between sort of like 2010, 2011. Yeah. I still pop now, but yeah, as intensively, definitely not the same way as I was before. Yeah. But I guess coming to London definitely helped with the transition of me really falling into house music and house dance. Right. And that from there just kind of took its own path.
Yeah, because I feel like that was such a like transition point like for you, because you were always a good dancer, but I just remember something changing when you started doing house, and you started like, I don't know if it was an external change as in people's preferred seeing your house than your popping, or if it was an internal thing of like, right now I found this style, I'm gonna
it was definitely more an internal thing, which I think eventually ended up being sort of external as well, but definitely more internal. And I think it was having the right people around me at the time to kind of support the fact that actually people were recognizing something in me that came with my approach to the music and the movement. It's funny, I was talking to Brooke about this in Nottingham on the weekend and telling people, because people were asking me, oh, how did you get into house dance? Like, what was that transition from Poppin to house? And essentially, he was one of the guys that inevitably put me on the path of like making a clear understanding that actually I was pretty decent at it.
Right.
And he signed me up from my first battle.
Brooke did.
He signed me up from my first house battle, and he was the one that was just like, yeah, you're pretty good at this. Like, just have a go.
Yeah. And
yeah, like the thing that came out of it after all of it was that I ended up winning my first ever jam.
Oh, sick. What was that one?
It was the Tribe House Dance Battle.
Okay.
And this was back in January 2012.
Sick. Right.
At the Prince of Wales in Brixton, which is above that KFC
on
the big corner.
Yeah.
It's a big house club. Okay. And it was held up there, and Kashmir was the judge.
I think I remember that.
Tribe
happening.
Records was the host of, so they were a club promoter or a club party organizer, and they hosted like a couple of house dance battles, and that was the first ever house jam that I ever won, and it was the first one I ever entered. And so that was kind of the moment where it was like, oh, maybe I'm not so bad at this, you know? And and then it just gave me a boost and a confidence, and it really chucked me into the deep end to continue pursuing house dance and to find out more. And I think looking at it, I was always a house music fan. I always enjoyed listening to house music even before I even knew what house dance was, or what the basis of house dance was, or the fundamentals. And also my parents grew me up on the music. Like I come from a background where my mum was really heavily into dance and house music and electronic music. She used to rave and she used to go party and things like this. And then my dad was a DJ. Right. So that definitely had some sort of influence on me, and I think naturally through them, and also through the choices of music that I was kind of exposed to, that naturally kind of got me into that same sort of vibe. And I think just through the progression of learning the movement, it helped me to really open up and internalize actually the real love I have for the music that then kind of transpired into the dance. Yeah,
I think it's definitely one of those things. Like, I think we often have this idea that when we grow up, we're gonna, like, the things that we love are gonna be apparent to us from the beginning, or our influences are what they are. And I think that's partly like a lot of people get to a certain age and then they haven't maybe found their passion or their thing they're good at, and they kind of think, oh well, if it was going to happen, it would have happened by now. And there's a lot of stuff that I've discovered later on in life that I was like, oh, this has been in me all along, you know. But I just didn't recognize. Like, even photography, I started when I was like 26, 27, and people were like, oh, that's so random that you started doing photography. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, actually, it's not. Like, it feels random. But I remember being like 17, 16, and like when phone cameras first came out, me being like to all my friends, like, oh, you stand there. But like, I just thought I was messing around. But now that I start to realize, and I'm, like you said, like being open to like these things hitting you, you're like, oh yeah, these things were in me for a long time.
They line up accordingly to the moment you turn 26, or the moment you find that time for yourself. And then it does, it makes it's like a light bulb effect. Like, things start to pop off and make you realize that actually this was always dormant.
Exactly. That's exactly how I feel. I think it's crazy because it's like I'm like, what else do I love that I don't know about? Like, am I like a MMA fighter? Like, I don't know, like UFC. I'm like, I feel like my life could go in such random directions, but I love it. It's like makes me feel like more open to like experiences and trying stuff. Just
absolutely.
Like, oh fuck, I didn't know I was going to love photography 6 years ago. So or I didn't know I was going to want to do a podcast 2 years ago. So do you know what I mean? So now it's like, anything could happen. I guess.
I agree. It's
a nicer way to live, I think. But I wanted to ask you as well, is this is something I've always been interested with you, is like how, I guess, how intentional was your journey from, okay, I've just started house, to now where you're pretty well-known house dancer, you've like won a lot of stuff, you're traveling, you're like kind of teaching all over the world. But I've always felt like with you that, how do I put it? Like that it wasn't like, oh, you were just like, oh, I'm just living my best life. I'm pretty good at house. And then people are like, oh, you should come and battle here. And you're like, oh, okay, maybe. Like, I always thought, like, I feel more from you that it was like, I know where I'm going and this is how I'm going to do it.
Right.
And it's going to be like this and this and this. And it didn't feel, not in a inauthentic way, but in a just way of like, Oh yeah, you're not like just all airy up in your head, just like I'm just living life. You know, like you were like a bit like smart,
calculated.
And calculated,
like,
but not with the negative connotations of that. Just like calculated in a good way. Like, okay, Frankie knows what he's doing. Like,
I think I like what you're getting to with that, because I think there is a part of it which is a little bit like that. I think generally in my character and with a lot of the ways or a lot of the things that I apply myself with, it's quite driven. I'm quite a driven person, and I also tend to give like 100%, if not even higher, if I can say that, in the things that I intend to do. And so like, and I see it as like it's always going to be an investment. Because I think at first it was a bit airy. I was a bit airy with it all, because again, even till today, I've never really had too many expectations with knowing the exact direction or the exact things that I wanted to do with my dance. I've just been very blessed and very lucky with the achievements and the things that those things have opened up to me and have created doors and paths for me. And then learning just to act upon those things when the moment comes.
Which I think is super important.
And also just, I'm very lucky. I've had great people around me and mentors around me and friends who have also advised me to try this or to think about this, or, you know, like for example, Renegade is a perfect example of someone that I get to see on a weekly basis who really advises not just me, but so many people, and openly, publicly advises people to, you know, to make the most of your moments and to manifest, to manifest and to think about, okay, the moment things are quiet, what can you do in your moment that can be productive, and how can you be productive of your time, and also like even within the thing, when you are in your flow and there is momentum with what you're doing, how do you keep that continuous? How do you create longevity? And so when I had these conversations with certain people, like it was great. I was really thinking about, okay, I want to really work on my professionalism. So I really wanted to get more up to scratch with the way I was promoting myself on social media and fixing my Instagram and fixing up my YouTube channel, and also creating a music playlist on Spotify. Because even though these things might seem really subtle and kind of meaningless to some people, like for people in our particular community or industry, like those are some of the things that have actually made the biggest difference for me in being able to put myself out to the world and to my community in the services that I can provide. And I have to, you know, be honest with that. Like some of my greatest achievements and things that I've managed to accomplish through this dance have come about because of people seeing what I do on Instagram.
And that you're definitely not the only person. Like, I mean, like I know so many people that's true of. And I don't, I think it's definitely something that's overlooked in the sense of, I think also the thing, you know, what you're saying about Renegade, that he taught you about like the business side, or at least they're like, for you to pay attention to the business side, then you find your own way with that. But the business side and the professionalism, I find is something that people either overlook or they don't think is important or something, because they say, you know, there's a lot of people I know that promote this idea of like working hard and I'm working hard, I'm going to be the best, I'm going to do this. And they attack the idea of getting really good at their craft. Okay, that's one thing. And then they attack the idea of like knowing about the culture and being around the scene and stuff like that. But then there's a third part, I think, which only some people grasp, which is like, okay, you can be great at dancing, you can be at all the battles, but what are you doing when you're there? Are you talking to people? Are you like making contacts? Are you networking? Are you responding to emails professionally? Like I know some good dancers who are very unprofessional. Do you know what I mean? I think we all do. And it's like, it's not always the best dancers that have the longevity and do the most. And it, you know, it's also conversely like very possible for someone who's not great to succeed, you know?
Absolutely.
Especially if you have these things.
I think, that's been really clear with some people that I know, that it's not necessarily the best dancers or the best battlers and that have that longevity and keep doing this stuff for such a long time, because there is so many other things that you need to be conscious of or awaken to be able to keep your pace and your momentum going. And like, you know, like I've always been someone who really takes care in, and I don't want this to kind of come across as like being like, what's the word? Self-conscious or like into myself, but I do hold myself to the way I put myself out to people. Not that I'm thinking about it, but the fact is just things like manners and just things like common morals and morality and just respect and things like this. Like, this is something that I feel like flies over, especially young people. Like, and I'm young myself, so it's something that I do remind myself of something. But, you know, I've always grown up around people, around family, around friends, around mentors, who have always taught me to always just be respectful and to acknowledge things like when you do mess up or when you do need to address something and to fully commit to being able to approach those things fully and honestly. And I know, like, in everything that I've tried to do up until today, I've always tried to do it with a pure and honest intention. And not putting on a fake persona, or, you know, I've had myself be challenged all the time of being like, oh, Frankie, you smile too much, or you're so nice. Is it really genuine and all this? And, like, you know, like, I've always had that challenge to me, and I it's sad to think that I do get challenged on it, not because it's sad for me, but just the fact that people are really are thinking these things. You know, people are really thinking like, wait, these are actually some really kind people. Is this normal? You know, because our society and also our community have become sometimes so cold, like, that these things that are meant to hopefully be just normal are being questioned and are being challenged.
Yeah, I agree. And but it's also, in terms of the business thing, it's also the side that you might have an honest intention, in the sense of, you know, like, you want to work with someone again, and you're not just trying to, like, get money out of them. You want to work with them. You enjoy sharing, you enjoy teaching, but it's also having the like, I don't know if logistical is the right word, but, like, the tools to be able to speak to them in a nice way. You know what I mean? And know, okay, this is a business opportunity. Let me write an email and start it with,
absolutely.
Dear blah blah blah. Not just like, cool, let's work together. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I think
so. You've got
you have you have a balance. I think, and the balance has to come from a place of, like, okay, this is me being completely genuine in the situation, but at the same time, we all have our bills to pay, and we all have to get by comfortably and be able to utilize one another respectfully and also as best as possible. So
the people that, you know, you said you were around people like Renegade, or I'm guessing people like Clara and In the House guys. Do you feel like, even with those people that gave you this advice on how to, like, approach things well, and all the mentorship that they gave you, did you find yourself around those people by accident, or did you kind of get to a point where you were like, right, these are the people that I need to be around?
Right.
And not in a way of like, oh, they, you know, maybe they were your friends. No, but like I've got like that, like that. I've thought, you know, this is a business connection, but then I've ended up being friends with people.
Right.
You know? So like, but was there a point where you were like, okay, like, if I want to get good and I, you know, I need someone that's gonna, like, call me out on my shit and tell me to work harder, so I need to be around Renegade. Like, I need, like, a mentor. I need someone that knows the house scene, so let me speak to Clara. Like, was there that sort of thing, or did it fall into?
I think it's a mixture.
Okay.
I think there's definitely people that I have in my circle, or like in the group of people that I'm quite close with, that probably sometimes started out being like, oh, these are people that potentially we can create an opportunity between us. And then ended up being really close through it. And also just general, like, I feel like I'm a person that really connects and clicks with people very quickly, in being able to read just where they're at and just where their energy's at and stuff. Like, I like to consider myself quite spiritual in that sense. Like, I really tap into people very quickly because of the energy that they kind of emit.
Okay.
I feel like I'm very in touch with recognizing when it's genuine and when it's not. And and I feel like I've been very lucky and very blessed with having people that emit to me or attract to me very easily throughout my journey. And it's been very rare I've ran into people that I just didn't connect with, or things just didn't work, or things like that. And so I would say, honestly, I don't have a ton of experience to say that I've come across people that it was just like, that this is not working out, or like this is something that's just not going to happen. But I think if I consider people like Clara, or also my crew in the house and stuff, that was more based off just, I think I was just blessed to have those people cross paths with me, and the universe spoke for itself. And, you know, these are people definitely that are just extensions, that they're extensions of me, and they're things that I reckon they are people that I recognize myself in. And I think this is like the whole thing within the house happens so organically. And I think even with for Clara, for example, like Clara's been teaching me since I was 16, so it's almost been 13 years that she's been in my life. And I think if you look at back when I first started to learn from her, and then up until this moment, I would have never guessed that moving to London would have created our relationship into something like it is now, and how we've become family. Like, I love this woman to death, and also the way she looks out for me, and it just came about. And I think we all know each other inside out, like, and they're the people that call me out on the stuff that I might be like dying on.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that so much, like, I love the fact that they do that. They can call me out on that. And that's what reminds me of all of these things that we're talking about. Like, having those certain people in your life is the most valuable thing for me, I think, right now, especially when you are in an industry which is so fast and so demanding of our services and demanding of our character and also our energy and stuff, because we know we're people that consistently give out. And the moment that you have to take a moment for yourself or with your people, they're the ones that can recharge you. They can remind you and they can recharge you. And that, I just think, it happened really organically and naturally. And they're not the only people. There's so many people that I feel have a role and play a role for me, that feed me and give me certain things in certain ways that I need at times. And like, it sounds like I'm using people, but it's not. It's just that I think even you might be able to relate, is like, sometimes you crave someone, or you crave having a conversation with somebody because that person, you respect that person for that particular thing, knowing that there is something enriching in that person that they can give you, that's going to help you in that moment, or help you in that situation. And I think, like,
there's a really good example of that for me is Tally. Like,
right? Okay,
she's one of the people that I feel like, or let's say one of the few people that I feel like I made an effort to be friends with. Because I was like, we had some, like, we did some shows together or something. I can't remember how we first, like, I mean, I've known her for a long, long time, but like we first spent more time together. And it was like that. It was like, I want to have a person like you in my life. I don't know what it was necessarily that was like that. And obviously, it could have been that I gave nothing back to the relationship and it just flopped because she was like, but I don't need you in my life. But it just happened, that we spoke and it took a while from us first, like, spending more time together to actually considering each other like good friends, I would say. But it was like that of like, okay, like, this is something that we could bring to each other's life, I guess.
I think that's super nice. And I think, just you making the joke of it is like, I know maybe I could be the person for some people where, like, maybe this person doesn't necessarily give me a lot, or they have given me a lot, but even I've been aware of that maybe, but I also didn't feel like I was wasting my time being able to give what I needed to give to that person.
Right.
And it's funny. I find like I find this a lot when I have just impromptu like conversations with strangers. Sometimes the conversations that I've had with certain strangers or in certain scenarios have been sometimes the most pinnacle and important moments for me. I have no idea who this person is. And it's weird because for some reason in that moment, that person allows me to tap into some deep stuff or into some personal things that allows me to talk about that situation. And I have no idea why. I go back off of it and I reflect on it and I'm like, I have no idea why I was able to talk to you so openly. I've known you for 5 minutes, right. But sometimes it's relevant and it's right to do so. Sometimes more than someone you may know for 15 years.
Yeah, true. And connections change, like, and every kind of connection with a different person is unique, I think. So it can be, like that conversation with that stranger or that person you've known for 15 years, like those connections will change and give you different things at different times.
That's what I've learned, I feel.
And I think we have a tendency to want to hold on to people's position in our life, like almost like we've given them a job, like, you're the best friend and you will be the best friend for the rest of my life.
Forever,
or you're the stranger and because we're sitting opposite each other on the tube, you're never going to be in my life. And it's like sometimes it's not so clear cut as that.
I think because we're these animals that I feel we also sometimes rely on systems, or we rely on
of course,
comfortability of how these things should be in our lives, and
it's just easier to process, I guess. Like, oh, that's who he or she is to me, and it doesn't feel as messy. But okay, so let's take a step back. So because you went from like kind of doing your first battle, you won in-house, and then I think one thing that I feel like a lot of dancers are kind of like desperate to do is to, like, in air quotes, like, get their name out there.
Right.
And it's like it's one thing to get invited to a battle or get through prelims, even controversial, or to put on workshops or things like that when you have and again in air quotes, name, right? And I think there's a bit of a disconnect from what I see anyway of people understanding what that entails to go from just some guy to like Frankie J or Alex the Cage or Capella or people that we know their names. Do you know what I mean? Like, and they're like in the dance world, let's say like a household name, Salah or whoever. So how did you have a plan from the beginning? Did you develop it as you went? But what was your process in? Because I think the first I remember of it was you were traveling for battles a lot. And I think doing well as well, because that's the other thing. I know a lot of people that travel for battles and they just consistently don't get through prelims. So I think there's definitely a balance to be struck between I have to get myself out there and be seen and do stuff, but also your skill level has to be on a level that you can't just travel from day one, right? Because then it's just like you're still, nobody knows you. You're just wasting money also.
And there's that kind of like deliberation of like, if I invest in this, is it going to be really worth it? In this, and the money, and the time, and in the energy, and this can also be something that I think plays on the mind. So how did your journey go? How calculated was it? How much did you? I guess it was like, what was the key? I think it was a little bit of a few things, because thinking about it whilst you were asking the question, a lot of it wasn't calculated, and I feel that with a lot of the traveling, it was purely because I was just like, yo, I'm hooked on this. This is fantastic. This is great. I don't know how I managed to financially do it. I just remember being like, okay, whatever spare change I have here, there, and saved and whatnot, I was always like, I've always been invested in my craft. Right. That's the one thing I think this all resolves down to. It's like, I've always been invested in my craft, and I always, because I know it's an investment, I always gave 100% in the things that I was doing. So as little as it might be for somebody else, choosing to go to Summer Dance Forever and just going there to do what it is that I needed to do was already going to be enough for me. And I was content with that. And I think at most places I was doing that. And I think a lot of people, they do make a big meal out of going on a travel and making sure or having an expectation to get to a certain thing when they do travel. And I feel with me, I didn't really do that, because I was also conscious of like, I don't want to put too much pressure on myself. Like I'm not going here to expect anything. And in terms of like battle results. And I think like, it's a moment thing. So there was no secret trick to being able to know that, the second time I went to House Dance Forever, I was going to qualify, or something like this. Because is that also comes from like knowing your own skill level? Yeah, maybe it was. Maybe like I didn't know, because again, it's like, it's one of those things where like you internally you think of yourself as something, but of course from the outside perspective you looked at as something else. So I had really no idea how good I was and whatnot, and it was just like some things that kind of spurred me on, for example, is that there really isn't, or even still till now, there's never ever really been a lot of there has never been a high contingency of UK house dancers traveling for house events. So that was something that also interested me. I was like, ooh, there's an opportunity here. There's a gateway here for someone like myself who is starting to travel and invest themselves in house dance and whatnot, because there's never really been a lot of dancers really pushing themselves in the house dance style that were representing the UK outside of the UK. So I was like, there's a place for me here. more than there was in some other styles, and that's not the reason why I did it, but that was something to consider. That was something to think about.
And I think that's a really key point of like finding a niche, because that even within a style that's saturated, like even at the moment, like hip hop is like, every time you go to a hip hop battle, there's a bazillion people entering. And like even like, you know, especially in the UK, like popping battles there's quite a lot of poppers here and stuff. But even within those styles, you can find a niche of like, this is what whenever people ask me for advice and stuff, I'm like, you can't, if you're not a clone in a sense of like you intentionally trying to copy someone, but if you fit in the same box as someone else, even within one style, if you're an Evian type of dancer, right, you're never going to succeed above Evian. Your ceiling is Evian because you're not better than him. Do you know what I mean? You're not creating something new. If you look like Ice, or you fit in that same thing, if you look like Brooke, your ceiling is those dancers. So if they're there, you're never going to beat them. However, if you do what I think a good example is like what Salah did in his day, or even like what someone like Evian or Ice did when they came in the hip hop scene here, is like they have no ceiling because no one looks like them. So it's like, it's one thing if you're like, if I dance like Evian and I battle him, the winner's going to be clear, unless and then there's the other thing of like getting better than someone at their style, which is, it's been done a few times in history, but it's tough. But like, if I'm battling someone like Evian and I've copied his style, or I fit in that same box, he's always going to beat me. Now, if I have my own unique style and I battle Evian, the judging becomes way harder. And I think it not only in a battle, but also in the scope of things, like if you want to invite someone as a guest, if you want to invite someone as a judge, if you want someone to teach workshops, usually what I think, I mean, you've traveled more than me, so maybe you'll know, like you'll be able to say, but like a lot of these things are based on, I find, variety. If you're going to put on a workshop with 3 different teachers, you're going to choose, even if it's, you know, you might want a house workshop, a popping workshop, a locking workshop. Cool. If you want 3 house workshops, you're not going to choose 3 house dancers who dance the same.
It'd be a bit silly,
right? Yeah. So or hip hop or whoever, you know. So I think it's like even with judges, it's because I find it's like a subconscious way of in your head you feel like you're not showing a bias. Like if you choose 3 judges from the same crew who dance the same, poppers might not enter because you know what I mean. But if you spread them out and you're like, okay, there's one popper who dances like this, one popper who dances like more funk like this, one popper who's more like lines and tricks and whatever, you know what I mean? And then you feel like you've covered a lot of bases. Yeah,
you create more variable for your audience.
So the more you're a different style, the more you have a chance of succeed, I find, or something different that's a niche, whatever that may be. Even if it's like, oh, I'm a freestyle dancer who can do choreo. I'm a popper who can do crazy backflips, or, you know, like you're creating a niche that no one else can cover. So when you say, oh, it'd be nice to have something else different, you're the only one to be chosen from that. So I think that's important with what you were saying.
Absolutely. I feel like it was never really a major focus of mine, but like I definitely know I stand out in the sense that of the way I dance house, you know, because people recognize me being like, you're Frankie J, you dance like Frankie J, blah blah blah, even though I'm not aware of people communicating that across to me, but people do it. And also I think as well, like I think my image as well has helped me in that respect. I'm a bit weird looking, not joking, but
like you have a unique look that stands out.
I think a lot of people have always said to me, like, you stand out, you know, like you're a dude, you're a light skinned dude with red dreadlocks with lots of freckles and smiles all the time. It's just like, you know, and those things, if I have to be honest, will definitely play in that favor. And I think through the journey of where I've got to so far is that those things have definitely worked in my favor in being able to help me to acknowledge and learn that this is me. And what I really always say and share in my classes, for example, nowadays and stuff, is that I tell people to really hone in on themselves when they're working on freestyle and when they're working on themselves in the dance, and the importance and the values of understanding how, you know, especially if you're a guest and you're coming into this culture, or, you know, or you're someone that's very closely connected to the culture, just, you know, depending on your position, where you come from, all this, your heritage, all this kind of thing, that these things play massive key factors in you being able to distinguish your identity in all of this. And that's what I did. I started to really tap into understanding, okay, I come from this city, I have this background, this is where my parents come from. This is the music I grew up on. This is the things I'm into. These are the things I don't like. And these are the things that help me to find the value in what it is that I hold and what it is that I'm able to incorporate and contribute to the culture that I'm learning. And this is something I feel like especially younger dancers, they're not, maybe it's also to do with a couple of key factors I know that have really helped me to tap into that is understanding my vulnerability and also learning to be mature and approaching my dance and certain subjects within the culture with a certain maturity, because that's also just a thing, you know, like, because again, these things are beyond the dance. They're bigger than just the dance and the moves and the battle as such, you know, like these are cultures. And so this started to make me elaborate on really what is it that Frankie needs to bring and to contribute if he's going to invest this much time and this much effort into his craft or into this dance. And
I think that's also as much about your own sanity as it is about the business side. And I mean, it hits both things equally, but it's like, that's going to help you succeed because you're creating, basically what we're talking about is creating a unique brand for yourself, you know? And and like creating, you know, the same way Nike try and carve out a part of the industry that they own. You're carving out your little niche and that no one else can hit. And the more factors you can include in that, the less people can hit that. But then also it's your sanity of like, I have to spend my life doing this. I have to do this every day. Like how can you owe
that to yourself?
And how can you know, you'll be stressed if you're trying to copy someone or trying to chase someone or trying to chase an idea that you don't believe in 100%. It's tough, especially how long have you been doing this? Like 10, 15, something years?
Being a active battler, it's been 12 years. And then I've invested into the house music and house dance culture for the past just over 8 years. So it's a long fucking time to do something you don't really believe in. And that's it. That's what gave me this epiphany of being like, wait, I'm doing a dishonesty to myself if I don't learn about myself in all of this and give myself fully into it. And there came a point, I think, for me, Luke, that I like, as much as I love battling and I love the thrill and the excitement that battle still gives me till today, but also there is a part of me that's just like, I couldn't give two hoots because I fell in love with this thing so hard that I realized that it wasn't the battle and it wasn't these other avenues that made me want to do this. It's just purely because this makes me feel most best and most human and just most myself in all of it, no matter what direction I take with it. And realizing that and you know, embracing that as my main motivation is the thing that carries me through everything that I do. No matter what I apply it in, this is what carries me through the best way from myself in all of that.
And I think, you know, it's I feel like this podcast is just like why battling is shit. Like the last like 4 episodes is just people like, I don't like battling anymore.
It's just I think you personally have to find your reasoning for why you do it. And I know for me at the beginning, battling was like, this is hella fun. I love competition. Like, this is making me better in certain ways. And there's an opportunity also there for people to see what I can do. And that was it. That was the thing for me for a while. And then I started to realize more and more with people maybe I was connecting with, and also just because I was more experienced then traveling and going to different battles and jams and stuff, that those things just naturally started to adapt and change. And this was something I brought up in my class yesterday in Nottingham, that we as humans are always adapting and changing too. And again, freestyle, I really see freestyle being the same as our adaptation as human beings. It's like, the more you change as a human, and of course the more if you're connecting yourself to your dance and your freestyle more and more and more, and acknowledging that you're putting yourself more into that, then naturally the dance is going to adapt and it's going to change, and your views and your opinions and the things that you love and like in what you do in your dance is also going to adapt.
And this is why I'm such I really believe that there's got to be some balance between, I'm going to air quote this because I fucking hate this phrase, but like respecting the history and evolving the dance. There's a balance, because it's exactly what you said. And it's like, you can't expect 16-year-olds who are listening to like fucking Future and stuff now, and like what like it or not, like what the current state of mainstream hip hop is,
Right.
to act and behave and dance like people that lived in the Bronx in the 80s,
In a generation that they never grew up
it's
in.
not, you know, especially, you know, like dancers from London, like, or Holland. It's more worldwide than it ever was. It's a whole different music set, like
Totally.
And I think a lot of things we're like forcing people to stay, like, or we're not we, because I don't fucking do it, but like, I'm not associating myself with that. But like forcing people to like fit into an old box, let's say.
Yeah.
But then actually the people who succeed are the ones that don't. Really, if we look at the top dancers, very few of them are the ones that went, no, I respect all the rules and I do everything I'm told by all the
There's
OGs.
a little bit of rebellion in there, you know?
In every good dancer.
In every good dancer.
I 100% agree.
You have to, because, you know, it's like we were talking about earlier. It's like integrity and morals and things like this, they all play a role at some point. And because we're dabbling in a subject which is so subjective anyway, that you're going to run into people that don't sit on the same wave as you, or don't sit on the same ideologies as you and stuff, and that's normal. That's okay. Embrace that. That's just a fact. Like, you're going to run into people that don't see the same thing with the same two eyes as the same as you, and that's okay. And if you understand that and you acknowledge that, it makes life easier in everything that you're doing. And I think you know, like, this is going back to also like what helped me to really, you know, be maybe successful in all of this, is that I really started to embrace that, you know, like it really became a thing of like, actually, I'm doing this because Frankie wants to do this, and Frankie's doing this, and you know, even like you're saying, like making an example of like, you know, embracing where you're at, like what generation you're born in, or like the music you listen to. Like for facts, I think I connected deeply with house music and house dance in particular, because I was already in a way deeply connected to the history and how I grew up on this music. You know, like I remember listening to jungle and two step and broken beat and garage when I was in school, in secondary school, because all the kids, we'd all go out and start skanking at these under 18 parties and stuff. And,
same. How old are you, by the way?
I'm 28 now.
Okay,
so,
we're similar age.
Yeah,
we're
so
the same generation.
and that's what I grew up on, you know. And so again, it was one of those light bulb moments. Like, wait, this is what I was doing even before I even knew what house dance really was.
And you know, it's funny. I feel like we're on this set. Like, I was exactly the same. The under 18s nights, the fucking like garage and that sort of stuff. But funnily enough, like I've spoke about this last week, but like my journey went from there and I kind of evolved through grime. Right. You know what I mean? So when it changed to like from garage and stuff to grime, and then through that to like rap and you know, like here, that was my...
The UK, and that's what I take so much pride in, with, especially with my interpretation and my beliefs in this dance in particular, is because our heritage here in the UK have been such innovators when it comes to the production of UK hip hop or UK house music, or, you know, other niches like broken beat, garage, jungle, drum and bass, two step, you know, things that UK has been prominent in being creators of and pioneers of. And that's something I take huge pride in. And that's something that really helps me to carry also my identity and my beliefs and my ideologies in this music and this dance. Because you know, I say this to people like, you're going to learn from the OGs, again, predominantly from New York City and whatnot. But when is it then you're going to start tapping into yourself and realize that actually, okay, wait, I wasn't born in the Bronx, or I wasn't born in Brooklyn, or I wasn't growing up in Manhattan, going to the shelter in Paradise Garage and stuff, because you just didn't do that. You're not from that. So, you know, where are you going to start to question, okay, where is my root? Where's my experiences? What is the things that I have, my experiences, the things that I grew up on, that then start to connect into all of this, so that you find your foot in it.
And I think this is, for me, one of the, from day one, has frustrated the fuck out of me, of like, that there's a difference between if people are gonna talk about hip hop culture or the culture of these dances, they didn't die. They didn't stop it didn't get to like 1997 and then everything froze in time. And so to be real hip hop, you have to be a 1993, like, or like Wu-Tang, kind of like, that's the only way of doing hip hop.
Rock baggy denims. And
that shit still happened. Like, and even if you're not on the different directions that it's gone into, right? And like, you're like, okay, like you're not into like let's say in hip hop like Future and Migos and this type of thing in that direction, right? There's still an evolution of that original hip hop that you liked, you know, like Method Man's still alive. Like he's not out here only listening to old tracks. Like he's got, if you listen to like Method Man or any of these OG guys who people always love, they have people that they like from nowadays. Like Method Man loves people like Jid and J. Cole and, you know, and it's like they have their own version of hip hop, which is evolved from this, what we say like the original kind of culture of hip hop. And that's just with rap. I mean, I'm into rap. So this is like where I get my influences from. But you know, with the way we dress and stuff like that, I don't understand when people dress like they're in the 90s and it's like, where did you get this dress style from? Because for me, that's the most inauthentic thing. You know, you're wearing a fucking Kangol hat and a like, and a tracksuit and whatever that you saw from an old music video and you're copying that. It's like if
you don't have any direct reasoning as to why you're
and you know, not saying don't ever wear a fucking Kangol hat, but I just mean like when you're trying to replicate a culture that is not current. I
absolutely get you.
And it's like if you go out, like we have these same cultures now. So actually, what's more of a disservice? Like, you're ignoring the current culture to only care about what was.
This lies, I think this directly happens within music. And also, you know, when you were just saying that, it reminded me that this is also directly happening in the dance, you know. I've always had biggest respect to the OGs, for example, no matter where the OG's from, but I've always had biggest respect for the OGs that understand and are just content with the fact that these things are changing. And that they're never going to have full power and control over this thing adapting and changing because that is how these things evolve. And understanding that these things need to go through the things that they're doing right now for something else to come out at the end of it.
And you don't have to kill the essence of the dance to evolve it. Like all the, like I think I spoke about this last week with Ice, but like all of the current hip hop songs and all of the current hip hop dances that are coming out, even the fucking TikTok dances, they still have a fucking bounce underneath them. They still have a rock. So it's like, you can't say they're not hip hop. Like the foundations are there. They've just evolved. The music has evolved. Everything has evolved on. And, you know, actually this is like a potentially controversial thing to say, but I mean, not really, but it's just an anecdotal story. So, but we all know the example of like the bitter OG kind of person that doesn't like the evolution and thinks that hip hop should have stayed how it was and everything's changed and blah, blah, blah. Clara hired me to drive, when I used to have my car, drive Tony Gogo around when he came to London. And again, I might be getting some of these facts wrong, but I'm just telling the story from my perspective. But we were together the whole day. Like I drove him from his workshop to his hotel to back, and it was just, my day was just sitting in the car driving him around. We had some good chats. He's actually a really nice guy. Never met him before. Also, nice. I don't, with all due respect, I don't care about locking. It's just never been something that I've been into. I never forced myself. So I don't really know anything about that scene. He was the most like enthusiastic, jubilant guy about the young kid. Like I was asking him about locking.
I had a feeling you were going to say that because I've heard the same with him.
Yeah, right. Okay, so I'd never met him. I don't even, to be honest. Like when Clara's like, "Oh, this guy," blah, blah, I was like, "I don't know who he is," but yeah, cool, I'll do it. He was so like, he was like, "Oh, I love what these kids are doing. Like, oh man, they're doing some crazy shit with locking these days. Blah blah blah. I love like, no essence of bitterness or whatever." And I was like, "Damn!" Like from my experience with a lot of these like older guys, there's not all of them, of course. There's a lot of people that are like you know, like even Renegade is someone who's really like
open to the fact that things are adapting and changing and the youth are investing in a different way. Yeah,
and there's a lot of people from that generation that are, but there's also a lot of people that are not.
Yeah, who oppose it completely. And
you know what, what I found the most interesting thing about that conversation is he said he doesn't make a living off dance. He works in a business in Japan.
Okay.
And he lives in Japan and works. Right. So I was like, interesting.
Right.
Your direct money source doesn't come from you being relevant. So I was like, that's interesting that you are able to enjoy the evolution because you don't need to be a part of it to make a living. And then I just said,
That is a good point.
and I'll leave that to float, to float in the air. But
that is a really good point. I think, actually, to talk about relevance is like, I feel like a lot of the insecurities that come from OGs that are bitter about the fact that things are changing. And the thing is, I do understand and acknowledge where their bitterness comes from, because there are just young people who are just completely ignorant, and are doing a disjustice to the dance and trying to take it places without really recognizing its roots and where it's coming from. And I absolutely agree with that. But yeah, don't allow the bitterness to then completely blind and get you to ignore the good stuff that is really coming out of how these things are changing and how the youth are adapting and are making it into something that is relevant for them of this time. And I've definitely also had these conversations with certain OGs, and definitely some of the OGs that I've worked with and have also, like, they've invested their time into me, like is them also being able for them to tell me, like, for example, Tony McGregor, he's another guy that I super highly respect, and is someone that really just gave me his time, never asked me for anything, but he gave me his time because I was a young dancer who he recognized as being like, this kid's good and he wants to work and he wants to get it in. Which I think
sometimes for people that care about teaching and coaching, that's all you need.
Because that's the reward then speaks for itself on, for example, my success. And I always say that, my success comes out of actually because of the investment that these certain people have put into me. It's never solely about me. My success is never based on me alone. And it's that, and I will always have time for the OGs that will give their time for the youth and aren't looking to find relevance in it, because I feel like the OGs that are trying to find relevance are insecure about these weird insecurities. Like, I've heard this before, like OGs being insecure about the youth taking their jobs and taking their workshops and things like this, and complaining that these young dancers don't know what the hell they're doing. And I'm like, you're looking at this from such a bitter perspective and looking at it as such a, you're taking my job, so you're taking my money. And I'm like, you're looking at this so wrongly, because you're going to be an endless cycle if you think like this continuously, because that's going to always be the case. And again, this is a thing that, again, for some dancers, I feel for some reason they feel like this isn't big enough for everyone to be a part of as well, which is so weird. It's like, it's so
but
weird.
Again, I think that falls back into like not finding your niche or not having your business sense. It's like
there's OGs that, bro, there's, even going back to this thing of what you asked me at the beginning, and sorry to cut you off. No. Like this thing of like these three components you were talking about, and even some of these OGs, they don't even have that third component. Like, you have to understand this, like some OGs still are from the streets. They're fantastic dancers. They're what's the word? Proficient in this type of dance style and come from this type of history and have been acknowledged for these certain things. But these are still street dudes. Like, or street girls, like these are not all of them, but there are people that I'm going to put it out there. There's some OGs I know that aren't professional, that just aren't professional, and it's just like, I would go so, and I'm not going to say you're saying this, but I'm going to say it, that I think there's some people that aren't good at dancing, and I think and are relying on their name to just keep them, or just the fact that they were there, just because you like. And I mean, this is something that I hope never comes back to bite me in the ass when I'm 50, but like just because you were there when something happened doesn't mean you're good at it, like you might know a lot about it, and it's like, could Renegade beat you at house? No, but he knows how to coach you on it. That's fine. Like, and not that Renegade's the person I'm talking about with this, but there actually isn't anyone in my mind. But there's people that... This is a general factor that I feel simmers across the scene. Just to clarify that, like, Renegade never claims to be good at these things. He just came in my mind because it's like, he owns the fact that he doesn't need to be better than you at the thing. He's just a very analytical and smart person. But with some of these OGs, I think people... it always stresses me when I see some people like doing judge showcase and everyone's cheering, and I'm like, I don't think this is any good. It's like, if that was someone unknown, it would be shit. And I've seen this from like even people with a big name that do some rounds, and you're like, that round wouldn't have got through prelims if you weren't. There's a lot of leeway. As they say, there's a lot of leeway in. I've had it happen to me, and I'm not even a fucking name, but I've gone to like battles in London and stuff where there wasn't that many people or whatever, and I know my prelim was a bit whack, but the judges know me and they're like, fuck it, you can go through. And so I can imagine if that happens on a bigger scale, or someone that demands respect for how long they've been around,
You're not putting fucking some of these OGs through prelims if they enter. You know,
totally.
But yeah, why did we even get onto that?
Just evolution.
Oh right, yeah, true.
Evolution.
Yeah, I just think that's one of my things. It's like you can't, or it's not fair to not.
No one is exempt.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like, people want to talk about this being based off of culture. Like, I say the word exempt because there's been some recent stories of like certain young dancers calling out certain OGs and things like this of recent. And
are we talking about Fiction?
Maybe. But do you
know Fiction?
I don't. No, I've never met him, but I know who he is, but I don't know. I've never met him. But just to be around that story is like, you take that in as an example. And I've been reading people's comments and things like this without getting into too much detail. But one of the things that I do agree with is that it's like, if this is meant to be a thing where you are to be upheld with your standards and be able to reciprocate and hold your ground and show people that you have this understanding and that you have these acquired skills and are able to articulate and to dance and do all these things that we are meant to be reputable for, like, no one is exempt.
I agree.
And I'm not just talking about call outs, for example, but just it goes across the board, like, don't assume you have this position or that you're going to be comfortable all the time, because there will be, at the end of the day, someone's going to question you at some point. Whether they have the same knowledge as you as not, someone will still question you at some point.
And if you deserve the position you're in, you should be able to hold your own.
Don't just assume it.
Yeah.
Just because you were there.
Yeah.
In 98.
Yeah. And I think this goes across the board. Like what you're saying, it applies to everyone. Like I've said this, whether I said this on the podcast, I don't know. But when I teach, no matter, even if I'm teaching beginners or I'm teaching high level people, whatever, if I teach hip hop, I always have in the back of my mind, if anyone in the world walked into this class, would I still be confident teaching what I'm teaching? Do you know what I mean? And not like I'm just saying stuff for the sake of it. I'm like, if the people that created this style, if the best dancers in the world came to take my class, would I be confident? Like I was in I taught a workshop in Toronto, and it was very beginner level for breaking convention when we traveled. And so they asked me to just do like a fun workshop for all the kids and stuff, and fucking Cozy came to the workshop, and I was like, fuck, because I knew she wasn't going to get anything out of it, kind of thing. But I was like quite pleasantly surprised of like, okay, like I don't actually have to change what I'm teaching because I'm like, I'm teaching bullshit. I'm not teaching bullshit. I'm just teaching a very beginner level. And the best I could do was like kind of go, she was with a friend, I forget who it was.
Was it Catalyst? Was it Cat?
No, I don't know who it was. I don't even know if was she with a friend? I don't know. Maybe I'm talking shit. I think she was with a friend, but I went over to them and kind of gave them what I would do as like advanced variations of the thing that I'm doing. I'd be like, if you guys want to push yourself, do this. But even then it was like, I can't go into enough detail to help someone like Cozy, you know.
But in the time that you had. Yeah,
I think my thing is like, like whatever I'm teaching, it should be like, like whoever came in should be able to look at that and go, fair enough. He's like, you know. So I think it's important that it's like, no matter where you are or what you're doing or whatever position you get into, you're still keeping them same values, if that makes sense. Like if I'm judging a battle and I'm, the best dancer in the world and I've won all these battles and stuff, it's like, okay, cool. But if someone calls me out because of a bad decision, I should still be able to hold my own. You know what I mean? Like,
totally. And
I've had had that where I've judged battles, and I've judged battles where the finals was like Brooke and Dixon again. I think it was a rain jam. Brooke and Dixon battled Evian or something like that.
Oh wow! Okay.
It was like a high level finals, and I think I judged one where you and Shadow won at All Stars.
True.
Right. I've judged these things,
okay,
and I had to go into that thinking, right, I don't think that if I entered this battle, I could beat them. The two things that I could hold on to accept to judge battles like that is, one, I think I know enough to back up my decision. So if you came up to me and you were pissed and you were like, you won, but I was like, if you were like, I fucking lost, like, why didn't you vote for me? I could say, and this has happened to me in other battles, but I could say, here's why. And I am confident that what I would be able to say, even if you didn't agree, you'd be able to say...
You're still able to articulate your reasoning.
And you would go, I don't agree, but fair enough.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if you called me out, or whoever it was, Brooke, whoever, if they called me out, I would have battled and I would have done my best. And that's like, I think those are the two prerequisites.
Something and that's still something that I feel still should be respected. Yeah. Despite whether you win the call out or not, it's just like you still showed integrity in every decision that you made. The fact that you still did the call out, the fact that you still articulated your reasoning for why you made that choice and all that, I feel like you're still doing what you need to do. And of course there's going to always still be people that are going to be like, well, I don't agree, or blah, blah, blah. And that's just how this is. But
I think this is the thing why there's no one, like what you're saying, there's no one above the rules of this.
Never.
Especially if you're the one talking about this culture.
That's it. Never.
But it's, it's like the thing of why, let's say like Eminem not responding to Nick Cannon. The reason why that's such a disrespect is because he went, you're not even worth my time to respond, even though that's kind of the rules of this thing, but you're like I don't even recognize you as part of the culture. And that's why it was such a disrespect to him, or that's, I guess, the intention behind Eminem not responding.
That was a low blow, as they would say.
That's the reason why when Drake didn't respond to Pusha T, he lost that one, right? In the set, because he already responded and he showed that yes, Pusha T is a worthy adversary. Then Pusha came back with that shit about his kid, and he just went, "Oh fuck, all right." And he even admitted on an interview, like, I took the L on that one. So, and this is what I think in dance and stuff is like, okay, there's no one, you can't say, oh, you're supposed to respect me, don't call me out. Because it's like, the point is, if you're not gonna, you can turn down the call out in the sense of you're not even worth my time, but there's not that many dancers that are that below, like the level isn't that.
Not.
It would have to be like a beginner 7-year-old that called me out, and I'm like, you're not even worth it.
I think it's always going to be down to the way someone gets called out,
right?
More than it is who should be calling out who.
Yes,
because anyone's entitled to call out anybody, but it's understanding what's the reason behind it and how are you doing it, and what do you expect to get from it if your choice for doing it is this. And that's mainly it. Because I've been called out, and there's been times where it's just like I had to question the person and be really like what's your reason for doing this? And sometimes I think the times that I have been called out is because I didn't put them through in the prelims, and I'm just like, I'm like, yo, boss, I told you the reason why you didn't get through, and now you just want me to show you the reason why you didn't get through. And of course, it's their choice if they want me to do that. You know what I mean? I wasn't one doing any of the calling out. So, and that could be a great lesson for them in that moment, which I hopefully would assume it would be. Because it's like, that's a conscious choice you've made. Here's your consequence of it. Not that it's a bad thing. It was civil laughter. We talked about it in here and there and what. But it's just like, I think, when we're talking about call outs, it's like, I think this is what OGs have a lot of problems with nowadays when it comes to call outs, because I would agree with them that people just don't know what the hell they're calling out people for.
Yeah, I agree.
And really knowing the weight of what a call out is actually really meant to be, You
need a reason behind it. Like, I think this was my thing with the J-Rock and Fiction battle. Fucking hilarious. Fucking hilarious. Oh, how we laughed. But my thing is like, with any call out is like, okay, what are you trying to say? What's the point? Okay, you didn't put me through prelims. So either I want to dance against you in front of everyone to show how good I am, that, you've just seen 5 rounds of me and now everyone in the room can agree I should have got through prelims,
Right.
Or you are judging and you're not as good as me.
Yeah.
And in which case, I don't think you should wait until you don't get through prelims to call someone out.
Right.
Mus used to fucking call people out every fucking time we'd go to a battle. But like he wouldn't wait to do the prelims. He'd get there and be like, what the fuck is this person judging? And he'd be like, I want to call you out. Like straight away. Like I remember one time, like, it wasn't a judge thing, but Green came over to battle and Mus literally walked over to him and went, I want to call you out. It's like, in Trocadero.
Oh,
and
really?
He got smoked. But like, the point is, he was like, you're the best person in this room. I want to battle you. And that was more of a thing. With Mus especially, it was more of a thing of, wanting to test himself. So but he knew the reason. He wasn't like, I think you're shit or whatever. It was like, you're the best person in the room. I want to battle the best person in the room.
Totally, I get that. I get that.
I think this is the problem. People call people out like, oh, I didn't get through prelims. I think you're a shit judge. You should have put me... And it's like, okay, whoa, one at a time. Like, if you think I'm a shit judge, why'd you enter, first of all? Don't enter and then come and call me out and say, I don't think you should be judging. I doubt
you would have still called me out if I'd put you through.
Listen, that is the bars, because if you won the battle, no one who's won a battle and this is fucking big facts. No one who's won a battle has questioned the judges
and still called them out after they won.
Called them out. Now that's fucking integrity. If you win a battle and then you call out the judge for saying that would be the most boss move, because like,
thanks for deciding. Now we're gonna do 5 rounds.
Like, yes, I should have won. I don't think you should have been here in the first place, and I'm better than you. Like, that is textbook. Yeah, that's a great way to do a call out.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
No, I don't think so either.
But yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it's you don't get through or you don't succeed. And this is the thing that it just shows the real reason. It's like you're just pissed or embarrassed because you didn't get through.
Right.
I mean, it's like, different if you have personal problems with someone and, like, you know, Brooks call out and stuff. It's like, I don't think that was necessarily a thing of being like, I'm a better dancer than you, or I want to show everyone your shit. It was just let's not get angry with each other. Let's just dance it out.
Let's just dance it out.
Which is nice as well. But I think, the baseline is like, know your fucking reason why you're calling someone out. And then do that in the battle. This was my thing why I was confused as fuck with the J-Rock and Fiction, because from my understanding of it, it was about Fiction not respecting animation, or I don't want to get too into it because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But it's like, if you're calling someone out because they're not good at a certain thing, or they think they're better than they are at a certain thing, etc., you should do that certain thing against them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because that didn't happen.
It's like me entering a house battle, you not putting me through and going, I'm better at house than you, and then we do a hip-hop battle in the cypher. It's like, well, what are we proving here? We've proved that Luke beat Frankie at hip-hop, if that happened. Like, then what? It's like, okay, cool, you still shouldn't have got through in house.
Yeah. Exactly.
It doesn't change shit.
It does. It's just, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
It's shooting yourself in the foot.
And I think this is, I think this speaks on a bigger problem with the whole thing, in the sense that it's like these surface level things that we think are part of the culture but don't dig deeper than. Like, we should be going to parties, or we should be ciphering. That's another thing that pisses me off. Like, there's like a duty to cipher, and it's like, okay, cool, but what does that mean?
I've always had my problem with that. I've always felt weirded by the fact that people force the fact that they have to cipher at a jam, or that they have to do it just before the battle or something. And I'm like, it's so weird. I've never gone into a cipher thinking that I have to do this. It's so weird.
And it's like these things that anyone that's like talked to someone that was around in the, like, even like Clara's generation and above, like when ciphers were fucking organic, like, you never said, guys, let's stand in a circle.
Let's stand in a circle and then wait for the best dancers to come and dance inside of it, so we can just stand there and look at them. It's
or like
weird.
There's so many, like taking fucking 6-minute solos in a cipher, or like you're in a cipher and then there's noise being made from another cipher, so you go over to that one.
To the other one.
These are not the points of ciphers. So when these are the things that are happening in real life, no, I'm not fucking ciphering at an event. When there's real ciphers, I'll cipher. And when it's like,
totally,
whether it's a friendly cipher, whether I'm exchanging with people that I have, like, if I don't remember the last time I danced with you, but it's like, say it's like, I haven't seen fucking Frankie and Clara in a while. There's like nice music. I'll dance with them because I want to exchange with them. It's a fucking high level thing, and there's the best hip hop dancers. And I'm like, I want to show.
That's the thing. That is, like, when we, for example, when in the house, like me, Clara, Joelle, Troy, when we teach and whatnot, like, we have a class or an intensive that we focus on, which is specifically about ciphering. We call it in the cipher. After in the house, and it's a workshop focusing on getting people to understand and to teach the etiquette of cipher.
Oh my god, this is.
Have
we got enough time for this topic? Because this stresses me.
Well, just to kind of get around the nutshell of it and whatnot. It's just like, there is a very lack of understanding about what cipher really represents, and also the history of the cipher and what that entails, and people, just having no clue. At the end of the day, people having no clue how to dance with one another.
Let me just say one thing though. Just, even though I'm on your side, the only thing that's in my mind is that we just had a conversation about allowing things to evolve how they naturally evolve. So sometimes I'm like, okay, this pisses me off. And for sure, a lot of it is me not, I'm like, oh, if that's how it is, I don't want to be involved. But maybe ciphers have, changed into a different thing in certain contexts. We're not in underground clubs anymore. We're in studios and we're in organized
the environments are changing.
So I think there is, to play devil's advocate to myself, basically, because this is something that infuriates me. But like, I have to remind myself, okay, it's maybe not I don't want to hold on to what exactly I think Cypher should be. However, I'm on your side, and I think there's a lot of you know what I think it boils down to is a lot of the time is basic manners, because yes, you can change the Cypher to be about different things. Like the Cypher back in the day maybe was about like one-upping each other, or it might be about exchanging or whatever. And now it's about, you know, just sharing, and it's a bit less competitive or whatever. Fine. If it evolves in that way, cool. What I don't like is there's 10 of us dancing. You know, we've only got an hour in this session or whatever, and you're taking up 6-minute solos. And, you know, if it's one thing if you're good. Like, and I know that's subjective.
No,
but
totally.
if you can feel from the Cypher, you're killing it, keep going.
This, like you just said in the exact words, if you recognize it, and this is what it's about. At the end of the day, for us, what we're teaching in that particular type of workshop is getting people to understand and to create an acknowledgement of recognition, because that's the thing. People are so oblivious of when they're doing 3, 4, 5-minute rounds in a Cypher, and for me, I can't understand how you don't know that you're taking up a lot of time, and also just, you know, and also understanding what Cypher you're stepping into, because like you said, there's so many different ones. Like when I first started to really understand and get the grasp on and understand what a Cypher was, I knew, like, and no one taught me this, but I could read by energy and see which type of dancers were in that circle. I'd be like, all right, I'm not ready for that circle.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But even till today, there are dancers trying to not to say that they can't, but again, there are certain things that you do question, be like, all right, think about what you're about to do. No, for a second.
It's like, you know, you're entering a fucking conversation about science with Neil deGrasse Tyson and Brian Cox. Like, fine, throw your opinion in, but they're going to look at you and go, the fuck are you talking about, bro?
Exactly.
Like,
and it's this. It's just this, you know? And
you have to be prepared for those consequences.
Be prepared for them. And don't act a certain way when you are questioned about your choice.
Legit, I don't know if he remembers this, but I've been like hand on chest pushed out of a Cypher by breaks when
you ain't ready, bro.
No, but you know what it was? It was like I remember it was, and I don't hold any bad feelings about that. I was like, you're right. Like, but it was a Poppin Cypher, and it was monsters were warming up for a battle, and they were like in their zone, going round for round. Like it was short rounds as well, and it was pretty intense. I don't know who I thought I was, but I went to jump in, and breaks went, nope.
Right.
And I was like, immediately, I was like, oh, I get it. It's your thing. Cool. And that was when I was fucking young. But now it's like, you know, it's understanding the level of the Cypher, what the energy is, what you're doing, because you can come in and like kill the flow, and this is what I mean about basic manners.
It is. And exactly, it is. It's manners. It's conversation. It's, you know, and people. It's about what we are teaching, and that is inevitably it's those things. It's the consciousness and the awareness that you should have around the Cypher, not how to Cypher, because even that's weird. We're not trying to teach people how. We shouldn't have to really teach people to dance with one another.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if you go to parties and you see someone, you like them, or, you know, or you like what they're doing, we're not teaching how to approach someone to know then how to dance with them. It's just like, this is something that, again, is organically, you have to find that yourself. It's weird saying that, but you have to find that yourself. But, you know, it is, when I'm thinking about it, we should have never, like, I'm going to shoot myself in the foot a little bit. We should have never really had to come up with the concept of a workshop.
Yeah, 100%.
To teach
it's
people
like,
how
I was
to
actually
Cypher.
thinking that. I was like, what a shame that has to be a thing.
Yeah, and that is
and
a
that
shame.
it's useful.
Yeah, and that it's useful now, because you know that is really something we shouldn't have to do.
But you know, I really think like any of these things can be boiled down to basic manners, because it's like, even me, like.
Yeah.
I again, there maybe is some influence of it where things have changed and it's not the same.
Yeah.
My understanding or my feeling on Cyphers was it was always, especially in a session or in an after party or something, it's like to an extent, you're building with those people. You go in, you go in, you go in. Whether that builds in a way of like, we're in a session, we used to have it where, and I mean, I came from a background of like, only really training with my crew. Like I was never like, oh, let's all go and train.
Yeah.
I would go to Madame Jojo's or Trocadero occasionally, but we had our own spot. So, and whenever I would go to other people's training and stuff, it was like, okay, we're working on stuff. So it's like, okay, we're building. I'm not here to show off.
Yeah.
I'm here to work on stuff, and you recognize, you're like, oh, this guy's been doing floor work all session. He's trying to kill that.
That's what they're on.
Yeah, that's what he's working on, and you recognize that, and after like 6 rounds, you see him get the thing that he's trying to do, and you're like, yeah, that's it. Like,
that's it.
And you're building and supporting each other. Or it's a competitive thing, and we're building like, no, I'm going to be the best, and then someone does a better round. You're like, no, I'm going to be.
You escalate it. You build it.
Exactly. So when someone comes into a cypher, you have to judge. You have to look and say,
that's right.
Oh, they're on this wave. They're trying to one up each other. If I'm going to jump in, I've got to match that or beat them. And that's me saying, hey, I'm here now and I'm going to be better than
That's
you.
it. And immediately you pick up the vibe. Yeah. Immediately you pick up the context, you pick up the vibe, and then you analyze it, and then you get it in.
Which should be simple.
It should be.
And, even little other stuff, like people don't watch when someone's dancing. Like if I go in a cypher and people are like doing their own rounds on the side, I'm like, I'm leaving the cypher immediately.
I think that's maybe this again is another subject, but this is the role that I think battle events have played in this particular thing, and of course it's going to always be one of those things how positive battle events have been for this dance, and also there being also equally the same amount of negatives that it has done for this dance, and it's always going to be that, and I think it's just about creating just an understanding of why are these things taking place, what can we do to, I don't want to say fix it, there shouldn't be nothing to fix, but it's more about how should we be addressing it better, and then also making it a community thing where we help our peers and we help the people that are involved in that to create that as a full understanding or a full circle understanding as well.
100%. And I think to, again, kind of play devil's advocate or argue with myself, but like, first of all, not everyone has manners. Yeah. Second of all, not everyone has the same understanding of manners as each other. Yeah. And third of all, it's like people do learn through experience. So I didn't, maybe not that I didn't know it was rude to say thank you, but you don't say thank you for stuff a few times, and either your mom or someone says, yo, say thank you. And you're like, oh, okay, that was received badly. Yeah. So, and I think the problem is a lot of times, I think Jenny brought this up, or Clara or someone, but like, because they're from a different country, that British people are quite polite. And the problem is, I think Clara said this, but like, someone does a 6 minute in a cypher, and even though we're fuming, we'll sit there and watch them.
Still watch it.
We'll be like, nice.
We'll still give them that time.
Yeah. And it's like, when it's like you're pissed on the tube or something, but you're just like sitting there doing nothing instead of getting off and getting the bus.
I think it must be a Clara thing, because I'm pretty sure, Clara would say something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, I mean, I think the thing is maybe to more not take, and this is a big struggle for me. It's something I struggle with personally, is like how to confront people without it needing to be a negative thing, and just saying, yo, get out of the cypher, bro. Like,
I think it comes through, there's also a level of like, I think a lot of people are also more sensitive now as well. In a way,
we don't do it as much. You know what I mean? So like, they're more sensitive when it does happen, because the only time we ever,
because it doesn't happen as frequently.
And like, true. If someone's ciphering for too long or whatever, we just go in or say, yo, get out, like, my turn, or whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Totally.
I mean, I think I spoke about this as well, but I used to play basketball a lot. Yeah. And this thing was like, even in England, this was like, I've been told, you can't play in this game. You're not good enough. Or I've gone to session, and I used to be decent, and I was not professional level, but I played like, you could play ball county level. Yeah. I played like East England level, and like, I've been told like, don't come back next week. Or like, we do a little like pre-game shoot around, and then they choose the teams, and there's like a few of us that don't get picked. Or I've been on the other side where I've been like to people like maybe not this game, like we're gonna try hard in this game, and you're not quite up to this, or you're not old enough, or whatever it is. And it's just like, especially I think it's easier because basketball's physical, so there's an easier thing with sports where you're like, you can't play with us because you're gonna get hurt. Like, I remember when I was a kid, when I lived in New York, and I used to go with my dad when he used to play like street ball around the back of our apartments, and I don't know why, I used to always go with the hope that I was going to get chosen. I was like 6. But it was just a thing of like, you're a kid, we're not going to, like, we're here to play, like, we're not going to entertain this little 6-year-old sitting on the side. But it's like that with ciphers, I think, in the sense that it's like, yo, like, we're doing some good shit here. Like, you can't, like, you maybe in a few years, but not now. And it's like, I think we don't have that, or there's a lot of negative connotations on saying that. And we maybe lean too much into this thing of like, oh, dance is for everyone and it should be shared. Yes, it should to an extent, but also when you're impacting my experience, we have to set certain standards in certain places, you know, like maybe there's ciphers that are for everyone,
Yeah.
but there's also ciphers that aren't, and then maybe there's events that are for everyone, and maybe there's events that aren't, you know. It's like if dance is for everyone, then why is like the beginners that are just starting, why they're not getting invited to be guests at big battles? It's like you have to be of a certain level to get certain things, and
exactly,
and to be needed in that scenario.
Still have some weight to it at some point. Totally.
So I mean, that's something that is like an endless conversation, but I just think it's like there's a lot of conversations that need to be had about manners in dance in general, but like just in cypher.
I think this is something that I overheard a conversation in Nottingham with Taiwo, and he was talking with Sean about youngers, because Taiwo works with a lot of young people, because he's like in a schooling system and helps working with kids after school and stuff like this, I think. And I remember him, just one of the things that stuck with me that he talked about is just like the youth are different this generation. True. Like a lot of them are a lot more vocal, they're a lot more confrontational. Like they'll tell adults, or they'll, like, in the worst situations, like they'll even, you know, get physical with an adult if they feel like they're being challenged and whatnot. And like, you know, generationally speaking, like that was something that if you compare that to when we were youths, or like our parents were youths, that just didn't happen. Like it just didn't happen. And so, you know, with where the youth are nowadays, like it is about adapting and learn, not the fact that we have to condone now that their behavior is like, that's normalized behavior, but there are things that we need to consider that we have to adapt and change in order to be able to connect with our youth 100%. In a different way. And I think, you know, like going back to manners, like that's something that, you know, reflects on that. 100%
with you in all aspects, even like outside of dance. And I think, like, say like my dad's generation, like they wouldn't question their parents like at all.
Whether your parents are wrong as hell or not, you just didn't do it. And
I think that's I mean, my parents never like hit me or anything like that. And I think it's a good thing that that's evolved, in the sense that my parents grew up in that generation, more my dad than my mum, but they went, no, this is not the way to raise kids, to be like, I'm 100% right all the time and you don't dare question me. So their generation, or whoever, like our generation in dance or whatever, went, okay, maybe we need to not. And I think it's quite like our generation in dance is, I think we decided like, all right, we're not going to preach to the younger kids and say you have to do dance like this. But what comes with that is there's going to be back and forths, and you have to accept that as like sometimes they're going to cross the line, sometimes we're going to cross. Sometimes, like, you know, like sometimes my parents are going to try and, you know, try and kind of control too much, and sometimes I'm going to answer back too much. But the sacrifice that they're making is like, we're going to have these back and forths because we don't want to only be right. And so they've had to like explain themselves to a 13-year-old who's like, what do you mean I can't go to a house party where there's no parents and everybody's taking drugs? Like, what do you mean I'm not allowed? And whereas their parents would have been like, don't you fucking question me, you're not going. Like, but my parents have had to sit there and fucking explain themselves. But the payoff for that is that I've grown up with a sense of like, I can communicate with my parents, and I feel like my opinion is valid. I feel the same.
I'm the same as you. I
think we need that in dance, where, you know, the thing is that these kids are not going to feel like, and I was talking to Ice about it, about feeling accepted by like Kashmir and these people that were like of an older generation than him. And that's good that they didn't go, no, you're doing it wrong from even though I said, you know, like there was a lot of stuff that he wasn't doing right and they helped him with it. But if they had immediately gone, no, you're shit at hip hop, you're doing it wrong. He would have been like, well, fuck you guys. They did like, okay, like, you know, what my parents did with me, kind of, they did that with the younger generation. But then the payoff, I mean, the thing from that is that you're going to need to accept that sometimes they're going to push back and sometimes they're going to have an opinion that doesn't have as much weight to it. And so you need to have the conversations, and it's an ongoing struggle with everyone. It is.
It's always a conversation, you know, and
it's different because we can hold workshops and we can, you know, talk about it. We can show it in our dance. Like our parents only had conversations. They can't hold workshops on how to be a good kid.
Seminars and stuff.
So I think we've got a lot more tools at our disposal to have these conversations. So we're ending on a positive note. Things are going to be okay, guys.
Yeah, things are working out.
But yeah, I think we'll start to wrap up because the last 2 times I think my camera's run out of battery because I keep going on too long. But yeah, I mean, there's always like a million things I wanted to cover and I don't.
I can imagine.
But I mean, it's a fucking hour and a half chat.
Heavy. It's nice, it's some really, really nice, interesting stuff.
And I love that, like, I mean, so far, everyone that I've had on the podcast has been a friend of mine. And I think everyone that I've got planned, or no, there's a few that may not be so close to me.
Okay.
But we'll keep them as surprises. But yeah, like everyone's been a friend of mine. So it's like, I mean, I haven't seen you in a while. So it's actually nice to just like, even if the cameras weren't on, it's nice to just have a chat and have a coffee.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for coming. I appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me. Yeah.
What's coming up? What's next? Where are you off to?
Boom.
You said you're not working so much this month.
Yeah.
Right?
This whole coronavirus is a bit of a madness.
The only thing that can keep Frankie in the country. A worldwide epidemic. Yeah.
So I've got, I guess, a couple of exciting things coming up. So on the 20th of March, which is not this Friday, but next week Friday, I will be spinning at the Curtain London.
Nice.
In Shoreditch, debuting my first, I guess, club showcase alongside with Making Moves, which is held by Matt Langrish and Jamesy from Making Moves.
If you didn't know, Frankie is now DJing and getting pretty fucking good at it pretty quick. So yeah, this is definitely something.
So if people are interested, you can find the event on Facebook. I believe it's just Making Moves with Frankie J, or Making Moves showcasing Frankie J.
Sick.
And you can buy a ticket there. And then on the 25th of March, I head to the States. And I'm doing a kind of 4.5 week tour. I'm going to be attending some different events out in the States, on the West Coast, and also actually all over West Coast, East Coast, and Midwest and South. And we'll be DJing out there too. So I'll be putting out information on the events and things that I'll be attending. Some of them I'm not working at. Some of them I'll also just be chilling and just go and check out. But I will be uploading that information closer to the time on my Instagram and on my fan page. So people can check out the info there.
Sick. So yeah, check out Frankie's social media. We'll have a link to it anyway.
Boom.
And yeah, we'll see you very soon.
Yes.
And yeah, like I said to everyone at the beginning, if you're enjoying the podcast, we're on episode 10 now. You can subscribe, you can like, you can follow me, you can whatever. But the most important thing, I'm not going to say tell your friends about the podcast, because if you think that they'll like it, you'll have already told them, or you will tell them. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to get you to engage with it. All I'm trying to say is, if you are going to respond, or if you have something to say, or you have feedback, everyone's been super nice about it. And I have to say, like, this is one of the things, I've uploaded like dance videos and projects that I've done that have got more, let's say, like statistics on social media, like more likes, more things than any of these podcasts. Right. This is the project that people have come up to me in real life the most about, and have been like, "Oh, what's your podcast? Oh yeah, blah blah." Like, I really like this. So it's super dope, because I did not expect that. So it's fucking crazy for me that people are actually listening. Like, even now, I'm like, I feel like it's just us two in the GoPro, which it is, you know. Yeah. But totally. Yeah, so it's sick that people are listening. So please, if you have anything to say, even if it's just something nice, and I'm reading all the YouTube comments and stuff, so please, like, write it on there, leave reviews and stuff, just because if there is positive feedback to be given, like, let's turn it into engagement.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah, and we've got some more planned, some hopefully interesting ones coming up. Yeah, basically I'm just kind of seeing where I can take this podcast and not just like keep it the same. So I will update everyone with news when it is official. But yeah, there's stuff coming and we're trying to grow, and yeah, man. So I hope everyone's enjoying, and see you next week. Peace.